"Can I share this table?" asked the disabled boy to the biker. What he did next is unbelievable. The afternoon sun poured through the wide cafe windows, lighting up dust in the air and turning every small movement into something visible, almost exposed. People laughed softly, cups clinked, chairs scraped the floor, and in the middle of all that normal life sat a man who looked like he didn't belong there at all. He was large, broad-shouldered, covered in old tattoos that told stories no one had asked to hear. His leather vest rested on the chair beside him, his motorcycle helmet on the floor near his boots. Most people avoided his table without thinking twice. And that was exactly when a small, trembling voice asked him a question that would change both their lives forever. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected humanity matter to you, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Only Kindness, because sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us who we really are. The boy's name was Elior. He was 13 years old, thin in a way that came from years of hospital food and missed meals, and his left leg rested stiffly in a brace that reached from ankle to thigh. Each step he took required focus, balance, and patience most adults never had to learn. He held a plastic tray with both hands, knuckles white, shoulders tense, scanning the cafe for somewhere, anywhere, he could sit. Nearly every table was full. Some people noticed him and quickly looked away. Others noticed the brace and the slow steps and chose silence instead of space. By the time he reached the center of the room, his arms were shaking. The only empty seat left was across from the biker. The man's name was Rafe Calder. At least, that was the name on his old license. To most people, he was just another rough-looking rider passing through town, someone you didn't make eye contact with, someone you judged in half a second and forgot just as quickly. His life had been heavy with mistakes, years of anger, years of running, years of choosing the wrong people and the wrong roads. He rode because movement kept the past quiet. He stopped at that cafe because the sun was warm and his hands were tired. When Elior stopped at the edge of Rafe's table, the cafe seemed to hold its breath. The boy shifted his weight carefully, trying not to lose balance, his eyes fixed on the empty chair like it was a fragile hope that might disappear if he looked away too long. He asked if he could share the table, his voice barely louder than the hum of the room. Rafe looked up slowly. People nearby watched with subtle concern. Some expected irritation, others expected silence, a few expected something worse. Elior expected rejection. He was used to it. He had learned early that his brace made people uncomfortable, that his slowness was inconvenient, that it was easier for others if he simply didn't exist in shared spaces. But Rafe didn't wave him away. He didn't sigh. He didn't look annoyed. He looked confused, then thoughtful, then something softened behind his eyes. Rafe pushed his chair back, stood up, and did something no one in that cafe expected. He lifted his helmet off the floor, moved it aside, and carefully pulled out the chair so it was easier for the boy to sit. He even shifted the table slightly so Elior wouldn't have to maneuver awkwardly around it. Then he sat back down, giving the boy space without making it feel like distance. Elior sat slowly, his body tense, waiting for the moment to go wrong. It didn't. They ate in silence at first. The cafe noise returned to normal, though glances still drifted toward them. Rafe noticed how Elior struggled to cut his food, how he paused to rest his hands, how he tried to hide the effort. Rafe remembered struggling too, different reasons, different scars, but the same quiet exhaustion of having to work twice as hard just to be seen as normal. Elior lived with his grandmother, a woman who loved him deeply but could only do so much. His parents were gone, one to sickness, the other to absence. His days were filled with therapy appointments, public stares, and the constant reminder that his body didn't cooperate the way others did. That cafe lunch was supposed to be a small reward after a long morning of walking practice. Instead, it almost became another lesson in disappointment, until it didn't. As the minutes passed, Rafe noticed something else too. The boy kept glancing at the motorcycle parked outside, its chrome catching the sunlight. There was curiosity there, and longing, and something close to admiration. Rafe followed his gaze and smiled faintly to himself. That bike had once been his escape, his shield, his excuse not to care. To someone else, it was wonder. When Elior finished eating, he carefully wiped the table where he'd accidentally spilled a few crumbs, apologizing with his actions more than words. He started to gather his tray, bracing himself to stand again. That was when Rafe stood up too. He took the tray gently, as if it were nothing at all, and carried it to the counter himself. The boy froze, unsure how to react. No one had done that for him before, not without making it obvious, not without turning it into a performance of pity. This felt different. This felt normal. When Rafe returned, he didn't sit down right away. He gestured toward the window, toward the motorcycle glowing in the daylight. He moved slowly, carefully, making sure Elior could follow without rushing. Outside, the street buzzed with afternoon life. Cars passed, people walked dogs, the world kept spinning. Rafe crouched slightly so he wasn't towering over the boy. He pointed out the details of the bike, the worn grips, the scratches earned from long roads, the engine that had carried him through storms and deserts and nights when he didn't know where he belonged. Elior listened like someone being told a secret about the universe. Then Rafe did the thing no one could have predicted. He took off his leather vest and draped it gently over Elior's shoulders. It was far too big, heavy with years and sun and stories, but the boy stood a little taller beneath it. Rafe adjusted it so it wouldn't slip, his movements careful, respectful. He wasn't giving the vest away. He was lending the feeling, the weight of being strong, of being seen. People stopped walking. Someone near the cafe wiped their eyes. A woman took out her phone and then put it away again, realizing some moments weren't meant to be captured. Rafe helped Elior onto the seat of the parked motorcycle, steadying him, making sure his brace was comfortable, making sure there was no rush. The boy's face changed completely, not into a grin, but into something deeper. Confidence, belonging, possibility. For a brief moment, Elior wasn't the kid with the brace or the slow steps. He was just a boy on a motorcycle in the sunlight, trusted by someone who looked like the world had once given up on him too. Rafe knew what people saw when they looked at him. He also knew what they never bothered to see. Sitting there, watching Elior hold the handlebars with shaking hands and quiet pride, Rafe felt something unlock inside his chest. He hadn't fixed the boy's life. He hadn't erased the struggles waiting beyond that afternoon. But he had given him something just as real, a memory where he wasn't invisible. When Elior finally climbed down, Rafe helped him carefully, returning the vest to his own shoulders. The boy reached out and touched the leather once, as if to make sure it had really been there. He nodded, a small, serious nod, the kind children give when something important has happened and they don't yet have words for it. Rafe watched as Elior walked back toward his grandmother, slower than the world preferred but stronger than it realized. The woman looked back once, confusion turning into gratitude when she saw Rafe standing there, helmet under his arm, sunlight cutting across his face. That night, Rafe rode out of town with a different weight on his shoulders. Not the vest, the memory. He stopped seeing himself only as the man he used to be. He started seeing himself as the man he could still choose to become. Elior would talk about that day for years, not about the motorcycle, but about the moment he asked to share a table and wasn't turned away. About the biker who looked scary and acted gentle. About how one ordinary afternoon taught him that the world still had room for him. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who might need a reminder that kindness still exists. Filled up pointing triangle special request. Please comment below and tell us where you're watching from and what this story made you feel. Because sometimes, the most unbelievable thing isn't what a biker did next, it's how one small act of respect can change a life in the bright light of an ordinary day.